Acre was the key to the Holy Land. For 2 years, crusaders from Europe and warriors of Islam faced each other outside its walls, starving, dying, refusing to break. But in 1191, two giants finally arrived: Richard the Lionheart of England and Saladin, a siege so brutal that even veterans trembled. This is the story of blood, betrayal, disease, and a king who turned the entire war with one battle cry. This is the Siege of Acre. Part 1. The longest siege. When the first Crusader army reached Acre in 1189, they expected a quick victory. Instead, they walked into a nightmare. Saladin surrounded the Crusaders. The Crusaders surrounded Acre. A siege inside a siege. Rain turned the camps into swamps. Disease spread like fire. Every day, bodies were dragged to pits, only for the pits to overflow. Still, the walls of Acre refused to fall. Then, in 1191, the ground shook with the arrival of a king, Richard the Lionheart. Tall, armored in gold, riding with a confidence that revived the entire Crusader camp. He immediately reorganized the starving army. Engineers repaired the siege towers. Catapults were rebuilt. Within days, the bombardment began. Stones smashed into Acre's towers. Wooden siege engines rolled forward under waves of arrows. The defenders inside, Muslims, archers, engineers, mercenaries, held on desperately, waiting for Saladin to break the Crusader lines from outside. Every sunrise brought a new assault. Every night was filled with screams, smoke, and clashing steel. But now, the Crusaders had something they hadn't felt in 2 years. Hope Richard had come to break Acre. Part 2. Richard takes command. Richard didn't just fight. He dominated the battlefield. When he fell sick with fever, he had himself placed on a stretcher and carried to the front lines to fire crossbow bolts personally. The soldiers saw it, and they pushed harder under his command. Siege engines hurled massive stones that shattered Acre's inner towers. Muslim defenders fought bravely, but supplies were running out. Wounds couldn't be treated. Walls cracked inch by inch. Outside the city, Saladin launched attack after attack to relieve the garrison. Cavalry charges, night raids, flaming arrows. But Richard blocked every attempt. Then came the turning point. Crusader miners dug tunnels beneath Acre's strongest tower, supporting it with wooden beams. When the beams were burned, the tower collapsed in a roar that shook the entire city. Now there was a breach, and Richard ordered the final assault. On July 12, 1191, after nearly 2 years of siege, the defenders knew it was over. Acre surrendered. The Crusaders rushed in, raising the cross above the battered walls. Richard had taken the greatest prize of the Third Crusade, but what happened next would shock the world. Part 3. The mass execution in Acre's fall was supposed to lead to peace. In the surrender terms, Saladin agreed to pay a large ransom and return the true cross. But days passed, and nothing arrived. Richard waited. He sent messages. He gave warnings. Still, no ransom. The Lionheart's patience snapped. On a hill outside Acre's eastern wall, in full view of Saladin's army, Richard ordered the execution of around 2,700 Muslim prisoners, soldiers, craftsmen, and nobles. It was harsh. It was brutal. But in Richard's mind, it was necessary. Saladin watched in silence. He did not charge. He did not break. But from that day, the war became personal. Richard had won the city, but he had awakened the fury of a sultan. Part 4. Aftermath. With Acre captured, the Crusaders finally had a base of operations. Ships unloaded fresh troops, food, horses, and weapons. Richard transformed the ruined city into a fortress ready for the next stage of war. The march to Jerusalem, Saladin, though shaken, refused to retreat far. He strengthened his positions, rebuilt his armies, and waited for the inevitable clash. Both sides knew the truth. Acre had fallen. But the real battles were still ahead. From this moment forward, every step Richard took, Saladin followed. Every fortress Richard captured, Saladin countered. Every victory was paid in blood. The Siege of Acre was not just a battle. It was the turning point of the entire Third Crusade, and it set the stage for the legendary confrontations that would soon follow. Arsuf Jaffa and the last march toward Jerusalem.